Greetings and salutations, my name is JW608 and today we are playing Starmade, and we're going to be talking about beam damage beams. Not beam damage beams, but damage beams, or beams for short. And hopefully we won't get any weird glitches. I restarted just to be sure, and my ship disappeared. So this is a copy of the original weapons testing ship, but you probably don't care. Alright, let's get to shooting stuff. Alright, damage beam computer. Let's see, we have our ballistics gel test here, our armored ballistics gel test, and shielded. And we have our damage beam. Let's see, damage. Damage for a damage beam is calculated a little different than for a cannon or a missile, or for, cannon or missile. Because a cannon and missile is one projectile it hits and does a set amount of damage. Beams are a little different because it's damage per hit. Let's see. Well, let me explain it a bit. Every time it hits, a damage beam will do 10 damage per module. It takes 5 seconds to reload, not per module or per hit, but 5 seconds altogether to reload. And every time you fire, it's going to cost 500 energy per module. The hit rate for a regular, unmodified, vanilla, if you will, beam is 5 hits per second. So if I keep my beam on something for 1 second, it's going to get 5 hits. The range is half a second. And the beam time, that is how many seconds it lasts per activation, is 1. So if I click, it's going to fire a beam for 1 second, and it's going to hit 5 times per second. Okay. And if you click and hold, you can control the beam. See where it hits every couple seconds. So you could, I think I only got 4 hits on there. The 5th one was wasted because it wasn't on the target. So that's just a little different, something to keep in mind for versus cannons and all that good stuff. But that's not bad. But it's kind of plain, and we want to change that. So we're going to slave an antimatter cannon to it. Alright, when a cannon is slaved to a beam, it is 1 damage per hit per module. But the activation, or the reload, is 1 second per activation. The power is 20 per module. Oh no, 20 per module per activation. So every time I click, it's going to take 20 power per module. The hit rate is 5 per second. The range is half a sector, and the beam time is 1 second. Well, the reload and the beam time are the same. That means you can have an indefinite, depending on how much power you have, you can have an indefinite beam. And that message is there because I'm not allowing anything to use any blueprints. And it's complaining about it. I'm doing that because I don't want surprise pirates. Again. But see, as long as you have the power, you can hold this beam forever. And that's the niftiness of the cannon beam. This also works for salvage. You can slave a cannon to a salvage beam as well. We aren't going to do that because this is for weapons. And salvage beams aren't weapons. Anyway, yeah, then that's basically what it is. A weaker beam, but it's constant fire. And why would you want a weaker beam that's constant fire? Well, that's where these 3 come in. You can build a tractor beam, a push beam, or a stop beam with constant fire. And I think beams are better suited to these 3 effects. Anywho, let's, where am I? Remove our cannon and add a missile. Now, the missile, if you recall, with the cannon, it turned it into a shotgun. It does the same here. You have your basic 10 per hit damage, 5 second reload, 500 per module energy drain, 5 hits per second, range is half a meter, beam time is a second. So I fire, it does beams like that. I have to wait 5 seconds and it lets me fire again. And much like the cannon shotgun, I don't know of an awful lot of use for this. I know some people will will actually hook a missile to a salvage beam, because it works very similar to this, and use for mining. But I think it's easier to build an array of salvagers or even of beams and get a better result. So unless you're doing like a laser light show or your Daft Punk or something of that nature, I don't see much use for these. Unless you want to scare your enemy thinking you're more powerful than what you are, then go for it. Alright. And for beam. If you do beam, the damage goes from 10 to 30 per hit. The reload time is 15 seconds. Power is 1500 per module. Hit rate still 5 per second. Range is 1.5 sectors, so it triples the range. And beam time is a second. So we hit, and that does a whole lot more damage. It does 3 times as much damage, what it should be. Doing 3 times the damage. And has a longer range. And a much, much longer reload. Okay. Now Pulse. As we've seen before, Pulse makes everything stronger. It goes from 10 to 110 damage per hit. You have a 55-second reload. The power cost is 5,500. Hit rate is 5 per second still. Range is half a sector, and beam time is 1 second. That does a lot of damage, but it takes a long time to reload. And like everything else, you can add all these effects. Like if we do an overdrive, beam, pulse, we're going to do a lot of damage. A lot of damage. If it ever decides to, reload. I don't think it's going to... Okay. I'm actually wondering if this will punch through the 1,300 shields I have, or 13,000 shields I have. Actually, I did not test this firing, so I don't really know if I have enough power to overcome this one. Or power to fire this. We'll see. Oh yeah. That tore right through 13,000 shields. And into the ballistics gel. A good chunk. It was really expensive to fire. Oh, there's an asteroid there. I like the new big asteroids. They're taking forever to mine, but I like them. It takes forever to reload, but that is a powerful beam. A 10 took out, or I mean a 10 that is, where am I, is 30 modules altogether, 10 beam, 10 overdrive, 10 damage pulse. Took out 13,000 shields in a second. That's impressive. That's really impressive. I should use these more often, but it's really expensive. Let's fire one more and see exactly how expensive that was. Yeah, that was 500,000 cost and power. Okay. Now what are we going to do? Oh, while we're here, well, let's just talk about the pulse computer, the damage pulse. We're going to lump these two together. Damage pulse is interesting because you, let's see, no, you fire it, and that's it. So you have to be really close to your target. I've never actually hit anything, so this will be the first time I've ever actually hit anything with the damage pulse. That was interesting. Let's go back to our first-person camera. Alright. Let me scroll up my cheat sheet here. I have the wiki open. Okay. Damage pulse. The value is damage per activation is 100 per module. Reload is 10 seconds to reload. 500 power per activation. Radius of 10 blocks. So when I fire it, 10 blocks radius gets hit for But I say 100 per module. 10 seconds to reload. Okay. That's nice. If we add a cannon to it, the damage jumps down to 20, reload goes to 2, power is 100, and same radius. Yeah, but this is almost like a melee weapon for ships. Actually, let's spin around to the water side and see what that actually does. And where it's hitting. Okay, it caused a cavitation. Well, that's interesting. So I've said I've never actually fired, or if I fired them before, but I've never actually fired it at something before. Okay. Huh, okay. If you attach it to a missile, it doesn't add extra. It doesn't add extra. Those, it just makes it bigger. Does it? No, same radius. Actually, it's the exact same as slaving it to a cannon. Slaving it to a damage beam, however, makes the radius larger, makes it 25 instead of 10. Power is 1500 per module. Reloads 30 seconds, and the damage is 300. Okay. And if you do it to a pulse, the damage goes from 100 to 600. Reload is a whole minute. Power is 6000 per module, and radius is 40 blocks. So once this is reloads, we're going to go to a clean side of my gel here. Gel, it's water. But you know what I mean. And we're going to fire it. It caused... I know it caused that. Did you cause that cavitation as well, or am I just seeing it from last time? Alright, in my experience, and from what I've read, the only use for a damage pulse system is to slave to another system. They are not particularly useful. I've heard of people theorizing about putting them on the nose of a ship and using when they ram things, but that's not doesn't look particularly practical. Although I imagine if an astronaut got caught in this blast, it would hurt really bad. Okay. Well, that was kind of lackluster. Anywho, I have been JW608, and this has been Starmade, and this has been our weapons testing. Hopefully you found it useful. I've learned lots of things, like never use pulse, damage pulse, except to make other things stronger. And, well, hope you had fun. I did. I am JW608, as I have said about 3 times now, and this is still Starmade. I'll dig you cats later.